Welcome you all back to our YouTube channel Science is Life. In the previous video, we explored a very simple C program which printed hello world, right? And in this video, we will discuss in detail about input output functions. So when C programming, you will need to print something in the console screen. As well, you will need to input some values into the console screen when your program is running. So how to do this thing? Let's see. There are several predefined functions in C that we can use them directly. So to give input into the console screen, you can use scanf and gets function. And to print something in the console screen, that means you need to have, if you need to have a output, then you can use printf and puts function. So before we use these functions, you should keep in mind that we need to include stdio.h file. So you know how to include header files. We put hash include, and within angle brackets we put stdio.h into it, right? So like this you can include this header file. So after including this header file, you can access all of these predefined functions. So let's move into the printf function. Anything we need to print should mention within double quotations inside the brackets of printf function. Usually we use double quotations for string values, right? So we indicate strings within double quotations, and we indicate characters within single quotations. So you can see that we can easily print a string using printf function, because we indicate strings within double quotations, and if we mention something within double quotations inside this printf function, then it will easily print that string. So if we code something like this, printf hello world, then we will have an output in the console screen like hello world, right? So how can we print other data types? If we need to print other data types, we need to specify what we are going to print using a format specifier. So you need to know what are the data types and the specified format specifiers for each of these data types. And if you know escape sequences, then you will easily print something using printf function. So let's see what are these things. So here I have mentioned the data types we use in C, as well what are the specific format specifiers for each of these data types. Here you can see we can use percentage mark and C for to print a character, and percentage mark D for signed integer, percentage mark F for float values, and percentage mark LF for double, and percentage mark P for pointer, and percentage mark S for string, right? And I have highlighted these two things also. Percentage mark and O will represent octal representation, and percentage mark X, simple X or capital X, will represent hexadecimal representation. I'll show you how these things work later. These are the special characters we use in C programming. So backslash represent escape sequence, right? So if we put a backslash in a string, then it escape the next character, and if we put percentage mark within a string, then it start a format specification, right? So it will not print percentage mark. So how to print a percentage mark within a string? So we need to use it after a percentage mark. We need to use double percentage marks to print a single percentage mark, right? So otherwise it will be, if we print single percentage mark within a string, then it will not print it as a percentage mark because it thinks it as a format specifier. That is why we need to use two percentage marks, right? So as well, if we print backslash within a string, then it will also not print as a backslash, right? Because the program think that it is going to start a escape sequence, right? So if we need to print a slash also, we need to print two slashes within a string, right? Otherwise, if we use a single slash, it will not print the slash, it and the next character also will not print, right? Why it will do like this? What are the escape sequences? These are sequences of characters that doesn't represent itself when used inside a string, literal or character, right? That means these sequences doesn't represent their letters within string or character, but they are assigned to do another work, right? As example, if we print backslash n, then it doesn't represent the mark backslash or letter n in the console screen, right? But when we use this backslash and n within a string, then the program will going into a new line in the console screen, right? Because so if we need to print new line after a string, then we can put this backslash n after a particular string, right? Likewise, there are several escape sequences there. Okay, now let's see how these format specifiers and escape sequences are working in C programming, right? So this is the very simple program that we learned before. So if we run this, you know we are having the output hello world, because hello world is a string because it is in double quotations, and printf is easily printing the strings, right? So now you know escape sequence, right? So let's see, will it print slash if we put slash within the string? No. Then there is an error, missing terminating character, right? Because there are no characters beside the backslash, so it will gives us a error. Then let's put n and. Okay, let's see like this. Let's print two hello worlds using printf. Then what will happen? You can see that what is happening. These two hello worlds are printing in the same line, right? These two hello worlds are printing in the same line continuously. So but my task is to print the second hello world in a new line. So how can I do this? I need to print a new I need to go into a new line after printing this hello world. So I am going to put that special escape sequence character backslash n. This means we are going to new line, right? Then let's see. Yes, now it is going to the new line and printing hello world, right? So I need to have two, I need to print it in two lines like this. I am going to have a new line. Then what will happen? You can see that it is hello world, the first hello world is printed, then the cursor went to new line, again it went to new line because we are using two new lines, right? That is why it went to new lines, then print hello world, right? So how how would it happen if we print T? Then let's see. Then slash T means tab, horizontal tab, right? So it prints a tab and print hello world. So please try all of the escape sequence, then you will learn what will happen. Now let's see how the format specifiers are working, right? So we know it is easy to print strings in printf, but we don't know how to print a integer. I am changing this as my string. This is my string. Then I need to print an integer, right? So how to print? We need to have a I told you that if we print a new, another data type except string, then we need to specify that what we are going to print. So if we are going to print integer, then I need to specify here that I am going to print a integer, right? So I am specifying it by a percentage mark and D, because D is the format specifier of integer, right? So then after I specified my format specifier within the string, after this string I need to give values. So after this double quotations I put a comma, then I am going to give the integer value. So this is the integer value I am going to print. So 5 is my integer. Now let's see how this program is running and what will we receive, what is the output we receive, right? So here you can see that my string is printed and there is a new line character, then it goes to a new line, then there it again prints a string my integer. After this string it prints a value, that is the integer value we specified by the format specifier, right? So that is how the escape sequences and format specifiers are working. Let's see about other format specifiers as well. Okay, here I have typed the format specifiers that we are going to use in future. So you know there is no we can directly type string and print using printf the strings, and but when we need to print integer, we know that we need to specify it by a format specifier which is D, and we need to print 5. Then for float values we need to use F as format specifier, then we need to give value. Then for doubles we need to use LF and we need to give value. For chars it is C, and within single quotations we can give a single character for this, right? Only a single character. And for to represent octals we can use percentage mark and O, and if we give 750 then it will print the octal value of it. Likewise we can print hexadecimal values as well, right? But I need to show you something more. If we are going to print an integer, I mean you by mistake you are going to print float because you are using float format specifier, but by mistake you entered an integer without floating points, you entered an integer, then what will happen? We will see. Now you can see when we print integer it prints the integer, when we print float using float points, then we need to print 2.5, then it prints 2.5 and zeros, so it prints 6 floating points. In doubles also it prints 6 floating points, right? So character, here character is printed. Let's see what happen if we print 2 characters. What will happen? The last character is taking as the character, right? The last character we entered will take as the character. Then I told you that what will happen if we print by mistake in floating points an integer. Here you can see it takes as a 0, right? It prints 0.000 likewise, right? So then here I have printed this format specifier for percentage mark and e. It is for it will represent float number in scientific format, right? So you need to print a floating point number, then it will print it as in scientific format, right? And there is another thing you need to know. You can print the ASCII value of char by using integers format specifier, right? You need, here my value is C, but I need to print C's ASCII value, so I am not using the C as my format specifier. I am using D as my format specifier. Then why we use D as format specifier? To print an integer values, right? An integer value. So here if we print this like this, what will happen? It will print the ASCII value of my C value. And here you can see it has gives the octal value of 750 and hexadecimal of 752, right? So this is how format specifiers are working. So how to print more than one values, floating points, integers or characters or any other data types, more than one, in using one printf function. So let's see how to do. So first of all, in my printf function I need to put double quotations, and within that if I need I can put a string. Here I am print my values, right? My values. Then I am going to print the integer, so I am using D as my format specifier, and after the double quotations separating by a comma I am giving 5 as my first integer. Then I am going to print a floating number, so I am printing percentage mark f. Then I am using another comma to separate it, and then I am giving 2.5 as my floating value. Then I need to print a double, so I am using lf. Then I am separating another by using another comma and giving 6.8 as my double value. Then after that I am need to print a char, so I am using C format specifier. Then I am giving within single quotations what I am going to print as a char, right? So let's run this program and see how the output looks like. You can see in a single line all of these things are printed, right? If you need to think that you need to print all of these things in separate lines, then you can use new line character. you can separate them by using new line character. Then we will see what will happen. Now you can see all of these things are in new lines. Here I have put spaces, that is why they are printed with spaces. So if I remove my spaces, then it will look like this, right? So now you know how to use format specifiers and escape sequences. So here is a brief structure of our printf function. Here you can say within double quotations we have mentioned a string and two format specifiers and escape sequence with backslash. Then we call these values as argument list because we are putting several values compatible with these format specifiers. So these are argument list, and this part we call format string, right? So the double quotation part is format string and the rest is argument list. That is the thing that you need to know when you're using printf function, right? Okay, there is another thing you need to know when you using printf function. It is zero fillers and space fillers. First, let's discuss about space fillers, right? So you know when you are printing a value, let's assume it is an integer, then we can use format specifier as d, right? Then when we print it, it will print at the edge of our console screen, right? But if we print a value within this percentage mark and d, let's give value 5 and let's see what happens. Then you can see that it is printed with the space. How many space? 1, 2, 3, 4, and this 5 is in the 5th place, right? So you know this is a space for a character. This is also a space for a character. Likewise, there are 4 space for the characters. That means there are 4 spaces, right? There are 4 spaces, and the 5th element is our integer character. So if we print 50, then what will happen? If we print 50 with 5, then what will happen? Okay, you can see now there are 1, 2, 3. There are 3 spaces, and it takes 2 characters for the value that we are going to print, and the rest will taken from the before of this character, right? Then there will be 3 spaces before these 2 characters, right? If we print this, what will happen? Then we will remain 2 spaces before our value, right? You can see it now. There are 2 characters, 2 space characters, then the rest is, so total are 5 characters, right? That is the meaning of this 5. Then let's see how it will happen when we use minus mark. Then what will happen? Then we can't see any difference because the spaces are taking from the after these characters, right? So we need to print something else to see the difference. So let's see another integer after this. Let's print 6, right? Then we'll see what will happen. Now you can see how many spaces are allocated after this. I'll erase this space also, then you will be confusing now. So like this. Now see, 3 characters from the value that we are going to print. There are 3 characters, so it takes all the 3 characters. Then we have 2 more spaces, right? Because we are saying 5 is our width of the uh, our value, right? Our value should be in 5 length space, right? So here it takes 3 character length, but 2 spaces are remaining, so these 2 are remaining and 6 will print after that, right? So if we print minus mark, then it takes the space from the right side. If we print without minus mark, then it will take the space from the left side, right? So you can use this thing to if you need to add padding for your values, right? So you can use these things for floating points or uh, any value, right? Floating points, doubles, short, long. So there are lots of values, representation data types. So all of these data types, so you can use this thing. So let's print 5.5 in floating points, then we'll see what will happen. Now you can see, you know how many floating points in a float? 5, 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 floating points. After that it is printing 6, but because 5 is not enough for this floating point, let's take 10. Then we will remain some spaces, right? Yes, we are taking 6 spaces for floating points, and how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? You can see decimal point is also a character. Integer value is also a character, so it counts from all these characters, right? Then there are only 2 spaces remaining. So that is how it working, and I need to show you something else. So this is how we set the width of our length. We can put how many floating points that we are going to print in floating and LF, right? So let's say our number is 5.5, and I need to have 3 floating points. Then what I can put? I am putting the dot and 3. That means I need to have 3 floating points. This means I need to have 3 floating points. Then let's see what will happen. It is printing 3 floating points. This 6 is another number, right? So here I am having 3 floating points. I am giving a single floating point, but I need 3 floating points, so it gives zeros in advance for having 3 floating points, right? So you can use this thing as well, the width also. Let's say it is 10 width. Let's assume 15, right? Then what would happen? It is having 3 floating points, and it is counting all of these things, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 30, 40, 50, right? Now you can see how it is working, So just try it yourself alone, then you will be able to learn all of these things very well. Okay, let's assume that there is a situation like this. If you need to print a integer in 3 digits or 5 digits likewise, then how to do this? You can, if you need to print the your integer in 3 digits, you can put 3. In the previous we did just by putting a single 3, then what will happen? Then it will allocate 2 spaces before 5, right? But we need to print not spaces but zeros, right? So 0, we need zeros for all the spaces, right? Then you can see the 5 is in 3 digits and there are 2 zeros when there are spaces, right? So now that's the thing you need to know with zero fillers, right? So you can use this thing for floating points if you need. Let's assume that we need 5 in this. Now you can see that by default we are getting 6 floating points for float value. So here we are taking 6, 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12, 30, 40, 15 are for the rest, right? So if we need to print the floating points, if we need to print 3 floating points, what we need to do? Put dot and 3. Then let's see. Alright, it is in 3 decimal points and rest of all are taking as zeros because we need to allocate this value in 15 space, right? So that is all for the zero fillers and space fillers. Okay, now you know how to deal with the printf function to have an output in the console screen, right? Now we are going to give a input by the user when he see the console screen. That means when we run our program, we can see the console screen. There you can input something into the console screen using this scanf function. Let's see how to do. So when we input something in the console screen, we need to have a variable before we create it, right? Before we run the program, we need to have a separate variable to catch that value which the user input into this variable, right? So if we need to catch a integer value when the user inputs, then we need to create an integer variable. So if you don't know what are the variables, don't worry, we will do a separate video for the variables also, then you can learn it also. So here just think this is an variable, number is a variable, its data type is integer, right? So our variable name is what? It is number and the data type of this variable is integer. So I hope to have a input from the user when I run this program. So I need to put scanf function. I need to call scanf function within this brackets. As we did in the printf function, we need to have a format string. Format string means it is within double quotation, right? So within double quotation we need to specify what value we are going to have. So here, what type of value I need to have? I need to have an integer value, right? That's why I created integer separate variable for that. So I need to specify here that I am going to have a integer value, so I am specifying it here. Then after this format string, I need to separate it by the comma, then I need to put argument list. But so this is the majority thing you need to know here, is that you need to put n marks in here when you begin a variable. For each and every variable before, you need to put n marks, right? So in printf function we didn't put n marks, but in scanf function you need to put n marks for each and every variable, right? So why we put n marks? Here the program is waiting, the program is hoping to have a integer value from the user, right? So when the user input an value, an integer value, then that value will be assigned into the variable number, right? The variable named as number will be assigned the value which was inserted by the user, right? That is why we are using and mark here. So if we execute this program, what will be the output? Then the console will allow the user to give an output. Just it gives, it will not print anything, because here we haven't print anything. It will just give the blinking cursor just to put an input from the user, right? So this is the structure of the scanf. Here this is the format string within double quotation. It is the format string. Here you can use each and every format specifiers, and you can use escape sequences, and this is the argument list. Here you can see all the variables begins with @ sign, right? So what will be the output of this statement? It will allow the user to give 2 inputs, right? So let's see how this will work. Here you can see that this is a very simple program I have created to take the input from the user. I have created a variable which is from int data type. My variable name is my variable, right? So I am using scanf function to have a value to my variable by the user, right? So when I run this program, what would be happen? I told you that there is nothing will be printing, because I haven't print anything using printf function. I have just created a variable called my variable and just call the scanf function, right? So here you can see the cursor is blinking. That means what? The program is waiting to have an input. I'll put something. I'll put 5 and give enter. Then it has taken 5 as the my variable's value, right? So this is the very simple program. Let's see like this. Let's have a printf function, and here let's say enter an integer value and colon, then I hope to, sorry, I didn't put in double quotations, right? Then I need to, then let's run. Now you can see there is a message, enter an integer value. Then the cursor is next to it, so when I print value, then it will look like, right? This program's scanf function will terminate whenever we enter the enter button, right? The scanf function will be terminated when we press the enter button, right? So that's how the scanf function is working. If we need to, let's say I need to have a floating point also, then what would happen? I need to have a separate variable for that also, right? I'll say it is my variable 2. Let's think that it is my variable 2. So I need to have separate variable. What should be the for data type of it? It should be float, right? Then the variable name is 2. So I have two variables, integer my variable and float my variable 2. So I hope to have values for each and every this variable. So let's run this. Now enter an integer values, then I'll put 5, then I'll press enter, then it again blinks, right? That means it waiting to have another value. So I'll put 3, then it will terminate, right? That is how it works. So I hope you got the point. So let's see about the rest of the gets and puts functions. Okay, now let's see how gets function and puts function will work, right? These two are gets function is also similar to the scanf function, but there is a difference. In scanf function, it allows us to input integers, floats, likewise several data types, but in gets function it allows only to enter strings only, right? So it allows entering some characters by the user in string format with double quotations, right? And it stores in a character array format, right? So it is very different actually, although it have similar characteristics. It is very different from the scanf function because we can put only string values only, right? And it where it stores in a char array, right? So first of all we need to create a char array here. In like this we need to create char array. Here I have created char my input array. The array size is 30. You will learn these things. If you don't know, don't worry. So here I have print enter the string, then I am using gets function to have a value into what? Into my char array, which is my char array. My input is what? It is a char array. So I am storing string values into my char array, right? That's how it's working. So if we run this program, what will be the output? Here there will be a message enter the string, and there will be a cursor will be blinking, waiting to have a string value, right? Likewise, let's see how the put function will works. So it is the output function. It is similar as printf function, but it is also different from it because it only prints the string value which is entered by the user using gets function, right? So let's see how this program will work in code blocks. Here I have typed the previous program. Now let's see how this program will run. So I will run it, then you can see there is a message enter your sentence. So I am going to print my name is Nirusha. Then I will press enter, then output is what? Your sentence, and puts my input. My input was my name is Dinusha, right? So it will put my input as my name is Dinusha. So you can see how it is working. So when I am entering some value, the gets function will assign the value which I was entered into my input function, my input variable, into my input variable. So if I print it using puts function, then it will print the value of the my input variable, right? So that's all. Okay, that's all for today lesson. I hope you all learn about printf, scanf, gets, puts, all of these input and output functions. That's all for today. Let's meet with another video. See you soon.